Hello and welcome to another edition of the Wrap Up. Where Kyle's frozen. No, he's not. He's back. Where
No,
the Toronto
I'm back.
Raptors just beat the Chicago Bulls by a score of 127-120 in overtime and pulled out another really impressive win. And they've officially are on a hot streak now. It was a big game. Fred VanVleet got announced as an All-Star. Gary Trent Jr. kept his streak going alive kind of by hitting a really big three. And we're going to do a short show kind of recapping the game just so everyone knows. We recorded a 2-hour trade deadline preview show with me, Kyle, Aiden, Sahal, and Louis Zatzman. So that's on the Raptors Republic YouTube channel. We'll refer you to that if you want some more content after this, because this will be short. We are tired from that long marathon of a show. But yeah, let's get into the game. The Raptors obviously got another one out in overtime. What do you think? Any big team takeaways or player takeaways?
Yeah, it's interesting. First of all, the Raptors are on a hot streak. We're on a hot streak. This is double header for today. Let's go.
I know.
We give us some credit.
We got to get paid more for this, eh?
I was going to say the advantage of these playing the same team in so many days is I get to reuse some notes, and then the disadvantage is I feel like I'm always talking about the same thing at this point, like with the Heat and with the Bulls. But really, a good game overall. It's a shame that every Raptors game has to go at overtime, every second game, because these guys are already playing so many minutes. But honestly, I'm really impressed, and I'm just thankful they didn't blow it, because it was looking like it would have been like an all-time choke. They were up 10 with a couple minutes left, and they were able to gut it out.
I'm thankful too. Yeah. I mean, first of all, because of that, because they're playing so many minutes, and it would have just been really hard to blow this one and then have to play Atlanta tomorrow. But also because I thought the Raptors were the better team, and they were the team that played harder. And the Bulls, just kind of credit to them, they're a veteran team. They stuck in it. Vucevic got that really lucky bucket to go up ahead, which was just like an insane play that just fell into his fingertips. But yeah, like the Raptors, I think they were definitely the better team. But I actually thought today was a good example of why the Bulls, like we just saw the Bulls and the Heat twice, right, in a row, both teams. And I'll be curious where you stand on this. But I think these games have kind of solidified my suspicion that the Bulls match up pretty well against the Raptors. Like DeRozan had a bad game, Levine had a bad game by their standards, and they still stuck in this one with all the injuries they're going through. No Lonzo, bunch of injuries. I really think they hurt the Raptors in a variety of ways. They move the ball well, so the double teams don't really affect them that much. Vooch is a really big problem for the Raptors' lack of centers, so Scotty's guarding him. And today was an example of, Vooch was just, as soon as Scotty took his eye out him, he's popping out for a three and he's hitting it. And as soon as Scotty face guards him, he back cuts. So where are you at with that? Because I think the Bulls are we're getting into playoff talk. I thought the Raptors are amazing. But yeah, I think the Bulls are a bad matchup for the Raptors. I think the Heat, though they might be a more skilled team, I think the Raptors play them better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we were talking earlier today about whether or not the Raptors need a good defensive center, and we were talking about maybe the only real issue for the Raptors in the East is Embiid, but I think we got to start putting some respect on Vucevic's name. He had a huge night. It's up. What is it? Yeah, 30, 18, 4 assists. Could have really been more assists. So he had made some good passes at a double team to shots that were missed. That's a problem for the Raptors. And honestly, it works against the aggressive doubling works against teams like the Sixers when they're playing like Matisse Thybulle, and when Ben Simmons was on the team, they have a bunch of guys who can't shoot. But honestly, with the team like the Bulls, where they're playing a bunch of guys who are knockdown shooters, or at least DeRozan who can catch and go, it's going to be rough. It's going to be really rough. So
Yeah.
I think they escaped this one, and I'm with you, not the best matchup. But I guess even though this was a home game, there were no fans, so I'm going to call this a neutral site game. 7-point win. I think they should. The Raptors should be pretty happy with themselves.
For sure. And also Fred and Trent both kind of had off nights, at least shooting the ball.
The
Neither was particularly useful.
So the going into this week, the Heat were the number one team in the East. They beat the Heat twice this week, and
Twice,
they
yeah.
beat the Bulls. And after the Heat lost the Raptors, the Bulls became the number one team in the East, which means that the Raptors have three times this week beat the number one team in the Eastern Conference, or three times in a week, I should say. So good for them. They're on a roll for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good thing to point out, because if you're not paying close enough, like close attention to the point where you're watching every single game, like the Raptors really are rolling against some really good teams right now, and especially that starting five. I found it funny, people talking before the game on the timeline, how there was like a poll like, should Ken Birch start? Should he come off the bench? And I was like, no, like that's not happening. The starting five is getting better and better each game. Like we saw at the end. And Don, if you could pull up this clip, Don Yang, by the way, is producing the show. No, not this one. We'll get to that after, but I mean the one that RR tweeted about Scotty with the putback. Because I just feel like the Raptors found ways in that big five. They're just finding more and more avenues to score. And the defense is also just getting more and more on a string. But offensively tonight, I thought the ball moved really, really well all night. They were leaving a lot on the rim and from the 3-point line, but the ball moved so well. And so Scotty had a bit of an up and down game, but just wanted to highlight this because huge play,
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I don't want to be negative, it's a win, but those Fred end the game ISOs, that was like a clutch time ISO from Fred driving into the heart of the defense. Like for me, it's always been a no. It remains a no. I'm still out on it. I don't When's the last time you saw Fred VanVleet in a clutch situation? This is, by the way, zero like statistical backing to this. I could be completely wrong if you go into the numbers, but Fred like driving into the teeth of the defense in a clutch situation and anything good happening for the Raptors other than like some weird putback type thing. It seems like every time they go to Fred in the clutch and it's like a drive into the paint, nothing comes of it. And that's not to like disparage Fred. He had an excellent game. He's a deserving all-star, but that's where I stand, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I think he gets in the paint a lot and passes it out, and they find really good stuff there. But I agree, like like his floater percentage, I'll tell you right now, is not high. He does have a good mid range shot when he actually has time to take the actual elbow jumper, but when he's floating with like a center in front of him and his floater is never like one of his first options. It's always kind of a bailout option. When he can't pass, the center steps up, he kind of goes to the floater. And you're right, it's not an efficient shot. But yeah, I think the Raptors had a lot of efficient offense in general, though, down the stretch of this game. And they moved the ball really well. And before we get into that clip of Scotty that I wanted to show on the other end of the ball, we got to talk about the bench and probably Chris Boucher specifically, because where were you at when he subbed him in for Scotty with like a minute left in OT?
Yeah,
Where were your mind at?
Where was I mentally? Or I was
Yeah,
watching the game.
mentally.
I thought for a second I figured Scotty must have been injured or something because it looked like he was grabbing his knee, but maybe he was just gassed and like I'm not really sure. I do like Chris though in these closing minutes, and in general, I thought he had one of his best games of the year. And we can get more into it in a second, but they can't afford to lose this guy. Like they shouldn't be shipping this guy off for another bench piece. He's like the fifth best player in the team right now.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. I'm not gonna lie. When they did that, I was surprised because I mean, you're right. He was exhausted. Scotty was exhausted, but as we know, these guys have been exhausted like a lot. And this Nick does not just take guys out because they look tired. Like there must have been something he was seeing, or maybe he asked out. But I was like a little surprised. But I think Boucher keeps surprising me this season because I still have this image of him as like a little bit of a sloppy player who will make mistakes. This was his best defensive game I've maybe ever seen. And he comes in with a minute left in overtime and he closes out under control, cuts off the drive, I think, by Io. And then he sticks his hand up and he gets a deflection. And I think it goes into Fred's hand. And that's basically ball game. So he gets the game winning deflection. And all night, I thought his double teams were really good. He was getting his hands on a lot of balls. You'll remember DeMar called that timeout early in the game when Chris came over and doubled him in the corner. And I'm just so used to him as a mistake-prone player, and really he keeps, like, proving me wrong. And just, like, such an efficient night, 8 for 14, and great, great defense. Honestly, Chris Boucher has to be our tax man of the night.
First of all, early taxman call, but we'll get into it. I will say about Chris, like, it's not just the lack of the bonehead plays, as our producer freaks out there at the bottom of the screen. It's not just the lack of the bonehead plays. It's like he seems to be working like 200% harder than he was earlier in the year. He's hustling, he's working his ass off. So it's even like he's not a perfect player still. He still makes weird decisions, but my tolerance for that, and I'm sure most fans agree with me, my tolerance for that is way higher when it's like he's getting on the glass on both ends, he's boxing people out, he's running in transition. Like he had a play, and Alvin remarked on the broadcast where he followed up an OG layup that was missed, or it was a pass from OG on a fast break that he really didn't have to run out and just worked his ass off, ran it out, and it ended up in a bucket. Those are the type of games that type of plays that change games. So all credit to Chris, and as long as he's working, like I'm fine. I have a pretty high tolerance for like some weird shit going on sometimes. Like we're same thing with Precious. Honestly, the only reason that we're still supportive of Precious is because he works really, really hard.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Boucher, I gotta give him taxman of the night. There was a bunch of other deserving people. I think especially Siakam and OG, but Chris Boucher with 16 points, 10 rebounds, very efficient, very good defense. Like I said, honestly, after the Barnes tip in, maybe the biggest play of the night. He's our Can-Am taxman of the night. And if you're new to the show, just realize we have a lot of viewers. So if you're new to the show and you haven't watched before, visit canamtax.com for all your taxing needs. You can call VJ at the top of the screen. Tax season's coming up right around the corner. You got to get your dough back. Get the government to give you some of that income back. You deserve it. You worked hard in 2021. We all did. So don't try to do it online for free. Don't do no TurboTax. Visit canamtax.com and they'll get you the money that you deserve. Yeah, I mean, anyone else that you want to highlight in the game, or whether it's a starter or a bench or even a bull?
I think just while we're on the bench, it's worth noting like Ben didn't play long and had so many open looks. Like some of the most open looks you'll see in an NBA court, just completely uncontested threes. Like every pick and roll is being, defenders are ducking under. So it's rough for him right now. And I get that it's actually testament to his ability that he even warrants the minutes that he gets. And I actually thought he still was a net positive at the end of the day, despite shooting so poorly and being like getting so little shooting respect from the defense. But I don't know. We were talking about who can play in a playoff series earlier today. I'm not sure if Banton really falls in that category for me as of right now.
Yeah, I agree with you that he was a net positive in this game, even though he missed those shots. But you're right. In a playoff series, they'll guard him the same way they did tonight, which is to say they won't really guard him.
They
And
won't go.
there's going to be some games where he makes the shots and then maybe the Raptors win. And there's going to be some games where, like tonight, he doesn't make the shots. And that's just not a way to survive when your bench players are like that, just unguarded. And it's just like, is he going to make wide open shots or not? But in general, the bench, like we got to say 9-man rotation. That's crazy for the Raptors. And honestly, in OT, if Kem wasn't in this game, even for those 5 minutes, maybe the guys don't have the same legs in OT. I felt like the 9-man rotation and Chris playing 25 minutes, like really saved them some minutes heading into OT. The only guy who was in double in the 40s was Siakam. Everyone else was in the like mid 30s, which for the Raptors is actually really good. So
It's like a rest day.
Shout out to the
35
bench.
minutes is a rest day.
Yeah, it's true. Shout out to the bench. They exactly tied the Bulls bench in terms of points, but they played really well. Don, can we pull up that clip of Barnes? We usually do a film study at the end of every episode or at some point in every episode. We're kind of not doing that right now because we don't want to play too much just stuff off Twitter. We'll get back to it, but This is an interesting one, I think, from a defensive perspective, because this is what happens when you ask a rookie to be one of your five guys and basically play the low man and usually defend centers. And he just makes a bad decision here to go at Vooch and forget about the back door so completely. Like, they almost flubbed the play. But yeah, like, I see you shaking your head. It's a tough decision to make in real time. I don't feel good criticizing him. But
My,
upon in the film room, he's gonna see that, oh, I kind of missed this, you know, two guys behind me.
yeah, I was actually going to answer in our discussion, but I in like the text session we were having as the game went, but I wanted to save it for the broadcast. I actually don't really think this is on Scotty. He doesn't really know that Gary gets injured here. He has like a little neon knee thing with Levine. Normally, like Scotty's just coming to the ball. It's not the best decision. I guess maybe you want him to just like hang out in space there, but ideally Gary would just rush down and be able to cover him. So
Yeah.
it's not as bad of a mistake as it might seem. Like it looks like he's just forgetting about two people. Really, Gary is like would have followed Levine down there and then would have been the low man. So it would have been a rotation. I don't know. Hard to fault him. I guess like the best defenders in the history of NBA, like the Draymond, it has like a sixth sense for like how people's knees are doing on the court, like how his teammates are going,
Yeah.
type thing. But Scotty isn't at that level, so it's hard to fault him for that.
No, yeah, it's not a mistake. It's just an example of how hard these things are to read in real time. And between the no communication from Gary and, Scotty kind of not keeping his head on a swivel enough to see what happened in the front of him, uh, it was a breakdown. But again, that's like, it's really hard to fault him for that, because he's a rookie and you're asking him to play the hardest position to learn on defense in a situation like that. Damn, DeMar went 14 from 14 from the free throw line.
That he
Okay.
is, I gotta say, like he is really fun to watch. Like he, like I, I kind of actually wish they would have pursued him in the summer. I know it didn't make any sense at all. Just it was completely sentimental. But he
Mhm.
is a really, really fun player to watch, and his playmaking has improved so much. And I guess we had this conversation in more depth last time they played the Bulls, so it's not worth necessarily revisiting. But like, I'm really happy he's doing well in Chicago. I'm ecstatic for him. And him and Fred shared a moment before the game. I take it, and that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, he's the player I got into basketball because of. He made me fall in love with the Raptors. I'm a huge fan. I uh I saw debates today between him and Zach LaVine, who's the best Bull. That was a topic for some reason because people don't have lives. But, you want to say Zach LaVine theoretically. Like, it makes sense that it would be Zach LaVine in a lot of ways. He could play some more defense. He steps out. He has a way more efficient diet of shots, but DeRozan's shot making this season has been absurd, to the point where you can't discount him and say he's not the best player on that team. And like, to me, it's just like, it keeps coming. He has such a difficult diet of shots, but it doesn't matter. He stays efficient because he gets to the free throw line 14 times a game. He gets 7 assists. But you're right. It's pretty, and he has OG guarding him. It's not like this is like any walk in the park. He turned it around despite OG guarding him in a lot of doubles, and he kept them in the game by getting to the line.
I Yeah, I couldn't agree more, guys. If we want to go to questions, because I sense like I'll tell you the people on this broadcast that we're on like hour 3 of podcasting
Yeah,
today,
we're
and
exhausted.
if you want to hear our thoughts on any sort of trade deadline situation, there's more content than you would ever want, including Aiden Moss going way too deep on the trade machine, losing his mind. So we'll link that. I believe it's already linked. But other than that, we'll move into questions, and then I think that'll be it for the night.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up pretty soon, but if you guys have a few questions, we can take a couple. But like I said earlier, just if you want more content, we will give it to you. 2 hours today on the trade deadline, on the Raptors at the trade deadline, what they should do, where they're at, some trade packages we debated. It was a really fun show, so I would definitely suggest checking it out. But let's see. What do you guys think? Which play? Oh, well, you kind of already hit on the Fred VanVleet play call.
Yeah, I actually like again. It's hard to say because the his it's too difficult to say every single play call Nick Nurse makes at the end of games is bad. In fact, the Fred play call that actually ended the game, which was like sort of an improvisational thing, but the Gary 3 at the end of overtime to really ice the game, that was something Nick drew up quickly while after Gary got the steal with Fred as a primary ball handler, and it worked to perfection. Gary was like, in 20 feet of space with a wide open 3. So again, I thought that play call was good. I didn't think the play calls with Fred attacking the basket are great, but it's difficult to find a balance because there aren't any other players in this team that can make that like cross court pass like Fred did to Gary as a playmaker. So you want the ball in his hands at the end of games as a playmaker, but it's 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 tough to see him as a scorer at the end of games, I'll say.
Yeah, I'll also say there was like, okay, the refs don't respect the Raptors, so you can't really expect this. But there is a lot of contact here on Fred. Like Vooch jumps out at him. It's probably a foul in a normal game or like in a normal spot in the game. But at the same time, Fred's not getting that call too often with 5 seconds remaining. So it's hard to like harp on that too much. Oh, sorry, this is the play. Yeah,
This is the
no,
play we were talking
I'm
about.
tired, man. But yeah, that's what I would say about that. It looks like he got fouled. Nick's up. You can see at the top of your screen, Nick is up about the lack of a foul call. Um, just hounding her, just giving it to her. But yeah, I thought the play before this was really beautiful though. They ran like a back screen and then OG got the ball in the post and then Scotty can't cut baseline and Scotty got like a little dunk layup out of it.
Yeah, I actually like I'm with this, and our friend Samson has an affinity for that like inverted screener roll out of like the baseline out of bounds. And there's a bunch of like people have been calling for this, but I always find like it's really hard from our perspective to be like they should run this more. It works every time. It's like
Yeah.
Nick knows way more than I do. So it's like yeah, I'd love to see more inverted pick and roll, but like I'm not going to be writing letters to Nick to let him know what to do. He's in charge for good reason.
They do run that horn set a lot where Fred, it's not a traditional pick and roll, but like Fred is on one elbow and Precious or someone will be on the other elbow and he'll screen for his guy. And then so that guy will sometimes it'll be like they'll back cut it and sometimes they'll run a pick and roll out of that. So and Fred screens for Siakam a decent amount as well. But yeah, it's not like we're spamming Fred Siakam pick and roll. That's definitely true. I like this question. Honestly, we might as well wrap with this and get out of the Raptor stock and then wrap. But this is a hard question. Who's the best team in the East? I've been on Milwaukee all season, but at a certain point, it's getting concerning. They're like 20-10, and they're just like not winning enough. So I don't know. I mean, I'll go after, but who's your team? Who's the best team in the East right now?
Yeah, my first instinct would still be Brooklyn, and I don't care that they're on a 6-game losing streak. Like they're the ones I'm the most afraid of in a playoff series because they have that like really super skinny guy who's very sensitive on
But
Twitter.
but
But
Kyrie wouldn't play either home or away.
but they almost beat the Bucks last year with no Kyrie either,
Yeah.
so, and with an injured James Harden. And I felt that iteration of that Bucks team was better than this version, although maybe they're just tired. Um, but I guess if I had to pick like at this exact moment, because that pick the Nets more of like who am I most afraid of in a playoff series in this exact moment, Sixers probably 7-3 in their last 10 playing.
No. Yeah, but okay. I mean more so like who's gonna come out of the East,
I'm going Nets. I have to go Nets.
right? Because I don't know about you, but I don't think Philly's a serious contender unless they do something at the deadline.
My thing is they're fourth in the East. Let me check the standings here. They're third in the East. And without the guy who is their, probably their second best player, probably like their best defender, etc. And so if they make a Ben Simmons move, and even without making a Ben Simmons move, this is the team I'm most fearful of. Other than Brooklyn, like they're good. I actually think that Embiid is on a completely different level this year than even he was last year. And I don't know, there's just something about that team. There's a good energy around that team.
I mean, I'm not scared of the Sixers. If the Raptors matched up with the Sixers, I would honestly not be that afraid because first of all, I don't think Doc's a very good coach in the playoffs. And second of all, it's just outside of Embiid. You're right that he is better than he's ever been. But who is really like Maxi's a rook? He's a young guy. Like he's good, but I don't know in a playoff series if he can be your number 2 option right now. Is not a lot of guys on that team who scare me. There's not a lot of two-way players on that team. I thought they were frauds last year. I think they're frauds this year again. I don't know why. I get this icky feeling from Philadelphia. I always have. And until they do something with Ben Simmons, I just can't trust that team because I think it's a lot of meh around Joel Embiid.
So
Uh,
let me ask you, like, if you have to make the decision this instant, where the Raptors finish, like position wise, standing wise in the Eastern Conference?
uh, assuming like health,
Sure. Like assuming whatever level of health the
I
Raptors are at
actually
this
will
year.
say 7. I'll say
You
right
think
where they are
7?
right now. Yeah.
Uh,
And if they finish 7, that's a great regular season. Um, yeah, I say 7. I just like I think Cleveland could definitely fall out of this mix that is currently
That's what I
the
was going to say.
case. But I don't know how much I trust the Raptors to be like the only team that yeah. So I guess I'm hedging my bets here and saying like one team might fall out, but one team might also pass the Raptors kind of thing. But my team in the East, I think it's still Milwaukee because they just haven't played together enough, the big three, and I still think like that continuity and that I can never say that word and the Giannis factor and the NBA championship factor, I think it's huge. But my sleeper is Miami. Uh, if anyone is a better listening to the show, when I bet on them, Miami is like a 10-1 win championship odds team. And it's like you might not think that they're gonna win, but those are really good odds for Miami, in my opinion. Like Lowry, obviously assuming Lowry's back and healthy, you have Jimmy, you have Bam, and then you also have a deadline deal because this is absolutely a team that's all in right now for the present. And so it's either Oladipo or a deadline deal or both. I think Miami is a scary playoff team because they also like are so well made for the playoffs.
See, I think I'm the way you feel about Philly, I feel about Miami. So I guess
Yeah,
that's where we
fair.
stand. Let's look
Okay,
ahead
I
here.
hope they play each other and then we can see. That
Exactly.
that'd be a fun series, actually.
That would be a fun series. And
Jimmy's old team.
Embiid and Bam has serious like rivalry potential. Those are the two like the best two young bigs in the East. You know, not counting
Yeah.
Giannis. Whether you want to call Giannis a big or not. What's your prediction for these next four?
Oh my God, it's about to be a
It's a
cakewalk.
cakewalk. That's what I was gonna
Oh
say.
my
Oh
God.
man.
No, yeah, this was a huge stretch of games for the Raptors to win because the rest of the they have I think the 5th easiest schedule in the league for the rest of the season. Like they've had a really tough start. It is a lot of road based, but that doesn't really matter because they haven't had a home crowd anyways. I actually think there's only going to be like 8 games with a full capacity crowd this season, which is pretty sad. Or for the rest of the season, I should say. But yeah, I don't know. I'll say 3-1, I guess, but could easily be 4-0. Like last time we played the Hornets, oh my God, the Raptors are just a more mature team than the Hornets, so they
Yeah.
take care of business.
Yeah, I'd say 4-0. I'm not a Hawks believer
Shea's
at all.
injured actually too, so
Who is?
SGA.
Oh man, yeah, 4-0. Like even more confident in
Yeah,
my 4-0 prediction. I think the Hawks are super fraudulent. I know they played well against the Suns tonight, but I don't know. They got so much credit to like running through an Eastern Conference that was like a collapsing Sixers team and a Knicks team that should have like way overperformed. And I don't think the Hawks are in like a really good position at all here going
yeah.
forward, other than Trey Young. So give me 4-0. Let's do it. We'll revisit this on
Okay,
after the All
wow,
Star break,
you've
I guess.
changed up, man. Your optimism is
I
just
know, I
it's
know,
different.
I know. I'm delirious as we've been
Yeah,
podcasting for
you
so
listened
long,
to
and I'm
Aiden too much earlier, talking about the Eastern Conference Finals. You're into it. Oops, I don't know how to solve this, but this is Kawhi Leonard's Culture Jam project. saying Spicy P should be the replacement. I agree, man. I
You think
really hope he
Kawhi
is.
said that? You think
No,
Kawhi is the one
no,
who tweeted
no.
that?
No, but I just think it's worth mentioning. But I really hope Siakam gets it. Fred is the deserving All-Star on the Raptors, but Siakam has been their best player for what, like 3-4 weeks now, something
More
like
than
that.
that, I'd say. Yeah,
Yeah.
more than that even.
So I hope he gets in. We'll see. We're pretty much all tired out here because, like I said at the top, we did about a 2-hour trade deadline preview today with me, Kyle, and 3 other guys from Raptors Republic who regularly do this show. So if any of you still want some more Raptors content and specifically trade deadline content, I'm gonna tweet or I'm gonna comment the link out right now. I'll also put it in the bio of this video in YouTube if you guys want to check it out. It's on YouTube at the Raptors Republic channel. Don't forget to check out the channel, like this video if you could, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back tomorrow night after the Hawks play the Raptors. Any last words, Kyle?
No, even I'm going to take it a step farther than like and subscribe. Hit the little bell there. That way, you know, if there's a trade deadline stream, if there's a game that you didn't even know was going on and just ended, you get a little notification, tune in. No, other than that, follow us both on Twitter. All of our work will be there. I hear people in the comments asking us to plug things. Got nothing to plug really, other than the trade deadline stream, which Oren just did. So check that out. Like this video, and you know what? We're glad to have you guys. This show's doing numbers like almost never before. So we're thrilled with the direction it's going, and we appreciate all the support.
Like the Raptors, we're just thrilled to be heading in this direction.
Absolutely.
Our youth behind the scenes, Don and Chris. Shout out to Don for producing the show. We really believe in the youth in this program, and they're coming through for us every night. They're just they're just reliable guys off the bench. We could bring them in whenever, hit down some threes. All right, that's about it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night after the Hawks and the Raptors play in Toronto. Good night.